Welcome to another special feature here on our station on the topic of charitable giving. We are here with Leave a Legacy of Oakland County, Southeast Michigan. The Leave a Legacy organization really has its eye on things that are referred to as planned gifts in terms of charitable giving. Planned gifts are gifts that go beyond our lifetimes. They're not just the gifts that we always give in our everyday life, but we want to talk about both those things. We want to talk about our normal habit of giving, but also we want to talk about what planned giving is and what it means, what giving beyond our lifetime looks like. And we want to talk about some really interesting things that are very timely, considering tax laws and things like that that are sort of in flux or underway right now. I'm Bob Alexander. I am a longtime resident of Oakland County. I am also the Director of Development at Angela Hospice, and I'm a volunteer for Leave a Legacy of Southeast Michigan. And I am happy to report that we have two guests here that are really very expert in the whole topic of charitable giving and planned giving and those kinds of things. We're joined by a friend, Rick Kress, who has been with us in the past. And we are also joined by Lori Horvath, who is a new guest with us this time.
A new friend.
A new friend. Lori is a CPA and a partner with Baker Tilly of Southfield, and they work with not-for-profit organizations on audits and tax work and all that kind of stuff. They work with the people we contribute to, so she's got a really interesting perspective for that, and I think that we're going to be really fascinated by some of the ideas and suggestions that she offers. And Rick is a principal of Kress Consulting. He's been a philanthropy consultant for 18 years, and he's actually been a development executive for 20 years with some really wonderful and prestigious organizations that you would know and understand. But he's been involved in charitable giving from that standpoint for many long years. You specialize in major gifts and planned gifts and what kind of?
Boards of directors, governance.
Governance, that's a good word.
So
boards of directors. So again, another person who's kind of got a view of behind the scenes, what happens to the organizations that we contribute to. I want to sort of start with a first principle that we've done in the past, because I think it's really important. It enables you to have confidence that we're not here with any ulterior motives. One of the principles of Leave a Legacy of Southeast Michigan is that we are really, that organization looks to help the community understand planned giving and charitable contributions better, just for the sake of that themselves. There is no ulterior motive. We're not trying to promote an organization or trying to promote some particular action. We just want you to be informed so that you can do what you want to do in your heart of hearts. Yeah. Anyway, so let me just kind of move toward where we're headed in today's conversation. What we're talking about on the heels of some pretty significant changes in federal tax law, so especially revolving around charitable deductions. I think everybody's got wind of that somehow or another. They know that something's afoot, new. Something's new, and I think that many times we want to know, well, what has that got to do with me? Is that going to affect me? And that's what I want to make sure that we do address in some way or another. So we want to know how that might affect the everyday philanthropist. I like to refer to that. That's you and that's me. It's those of us who are charitable just in our everyday lives. That makes us real philanthropists, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So what I want to do is sort of talk about our nature so that we kind of resonate, sort of ring that bell that's familiar to us, and talk about what motivates us first to be charitable at the outset. And then we'll talk about what that means in all the other facets. What thoughts do you have about what we philanthropists, what we everyday philanthropists are about? Why do we do what we do?
A philanthropist is a fancy term for people who are generous, and they help their neighbors, they help people across the world sometimes. When we have a hurricane, they send disaster relief. When somebody is homeless, they help shelter that person and feed that person. It's part of the American DNA to be generous, and they are. Over $400 billion last year was given to charities.
That's astounding.
It is.
And that's something that's kind of unique to us as a country. I mean, I'm not trying to America first us here, but I'm just saying, I think that we're known even in the wider world as a generous people. Is that
definitely, and definitely generous through all types of people, right? It's that everyday philanthropist is generous proportionately to, you know, the very wealthy people that we hear about with their gifts too. So I think that's something very unique to our culture and makes a big difference in the work organizations do.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, I really feel like we realize we're fortunate, we're blessed in some way, and we realize that other people need support that they don't have by themselves, and that they can somehow or another, we can help their situation some way.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's precious. So that's who we are, and I feel like that's a fair rendering. We're not doing it for many ulterior motives. I would say that many of us are everyday philanthropists, very close to home as well. I mean, we are worldwide. We give to such noble and big efforts, but there are also so many small not-for-profit organizations in the community.
In our backyards.
Yeah, yeah, and we support them to a fairly well, don't we?
Yeah.
We do, and it's really wonderful to see people, give to their neighbors and give to causes that will affect people within their schools or their communities, people in their school, in their churches. It's really a generous impact.
Go ahead, you have something?
Yeah, people who give have no idea how important their gift is. They may give $10 or $100 or $100,000, but charities and nonprofits absolutely depend on those gifts because they put as much resources into helping people as they can. And sometimes they cut it a little short, and that's where the contributions make the difference for them.
Right. Well, the ambitions of charities typically are driven that way, right? I mean, they're typically ambitious in order to make a difference, in order to make a change. Yes. So I would think that ambition could get the better of them sometimes.
It can. If you think about a charity is still a business. We always say that being nonprofit is just a tax status, not a business model. So they still want to be responsible. They still want to be good stewards of the dollars that are donated. But it's difficult to anticipate giving levels and anticipate how much of those millions of dollars or billions of dollars will come back to our organization, and to know how to help. The need is almost always greater than the resources. So to balance that and still be a prudent and grateful organization is often a challenge.
Well, and honestly, the number of them is really astounding. I don't even know it, but I know every time it's recited to me as to how many not-for-profit organizations exist in even the Metro Detroit area, my brain blows up, and so that's why I don't remember, because my brain is blown up
overwhelming.
Too many times.
There are easily over 1 million that are registered.
Right.
And then there are many that are not, like houses of worship are not typically required to register separately. So it's who we are, and that's a really, really good thing.
I think it's awesome.
We should be proud.
We should. We should be proud, and I think that we should be bold too. I mean, as people who, this to me, I intended to talk all about this, but I feel like as donors, constituents, as everyday philanthropists, it should really hearten us to know that our gifts are that impactful and are that widely needed, and really change the contour of the community.
Agreed. And I think it's really important for donors, everyday donors, to understand that those organizations really view that gift like a partnership, that they can't feed the people that they feed or help the people that they help without the resources, and they view that as a partnership of your philanthropy and taking that gift and doing important work on your behalf, and really understanding that it's really truly everyone coming together.
Yeah, I like that expression. As part of a not-for-profit organization myself, I do get that understanding that what we're doing almost as agents of the people who support us, so that we're not so much doing it for ourselves, but we're doing it for...
Right.
Yes.
It's a glorified middleman relationship, right?
It is, and it's such a privilege because you're motivated by your own causes and the things that are that are drawn to your attention, and even your own skill sets. I mean, the things that you're particularly good at, skilled at doing.
Yeah.
Right, and for donors to understand that what you're doing is just empowering those people who are gifted and are talented at what mission they're trying to serve. In my money going towards hunger and giving it to a well-run, reputable hunger agency is so much more impactful than me taking my gift and handing it out to people who I see appropriately. So it's really trusting those people to be stewards of our resources and our gifts.
It is. I think that's a great observation.
Yeah, nonprofits are really good at what they do. So if whatever service they're providing, they're really good at it, and the cash, the the asset gifts that we provide enables them to do what they do with excellence.
And be more impactful.
And help other people. And that's much more efficient when you think about it.
It sure is.
Right.
It sure is.
That's very interesting. I think we're gonna go toward the topic of the federal tax stuff. But while we're here,
Sure.
I want to still sort of linger in this particular slip of the dock and talk some more about those organizations. I know that you've both seen, as I introduced you, that you've both seen the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Sure.
The way that the organizations themselves either receive or use or apply, or how they're faithful to those gifts. What are the kinds of things that donors should know about that, or should be able to be savvy about it, so that when we're giving to organizations, we know that we're giving to organizations that do have those reputable, bona fides?
I think there's a lot of different ways to do that, and I think it really encourages gifting to be an educated donor and understand the organization. And donors, good organizations welcome those questions. As a development director, you probably are happy to share your work, and when you hear hesitation or concern about that, that might be a warning indicator. Organizations should be transparent and happy to share how they do the important work that they do. Most nonprofits are tax exempt, so they don't have to pay tax on the money that they earn. But they're still required to file a tax return, a tax filing with the government, and that's called a Form 990. Those are all publicly available. Many organizations have it on their own website. You can, search it on the internet, and that gives you some good indicators too. It tells you how much of every dollar they give goes into their program and how much goes into administrative. Those are good tools for donors to look at to see how much of my gift is being used directly for the mission that they serve.
That's a good observation. That they really, I think the reputable ones strive to be transparent. They want to be known. They want to be known as reputable and partnered and.
Right, and we're a partner if I help you understand as a donor how I'm using your gift and what I'm using it for.
Yeah.
Right, the more a nonprofit will engage you, not just sending you stuff in the mail, but actually if you say, I'd like to see more how my money's used, can I come in and tour what you're doing?
Yeah.
All the good nonprofits will say, sure, when can we arrange that? And you learn more about what's going on. Nonprofits don't do things perfectly.
Right.
And those that admit what their struggles are, I think those are more credible because they do so many things so well, but they always have some area that they need more help with. And if you get that feeling of trust and bond with a nonprofit, I think you're in a good shape. Plus, you can ask around, which I know people do, and say, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of that? And do a little bit of homework. Every solid nonprofit will respect that.
Agreed.
I mean, when you describe somebody reaching out to the organization and saying, I'd like to see what my contributions, what my donations are doing, my heart went like, absolutely. I would love to have anybody who contributes any amount to come and see, because it's, to me,
any amount.
Absolutely any amount. Come and see, just to see what we're doing, because our hearts
and
leap
feel
at the
good
work.
about your gift and feel good about what you've done. It's so rewarding to me as not only somebody on the other side, but as a donor, it's so rewarding to see the important impact my money is having. I feel great about that.
Well, and if you're visiting a partner, I mean, if you are a partner with the organization, you're visiting something that you have a vested interest in.
And to kind of see a little bit more hands-on where your money's going and the work that they're doing is very rewarding.
Bob, one other thing about nonprofits besides the tax situation is they have volunteer boards of directors. They don't,
lots of committees.
They don't benefit from monetarily from the nonprofits. So if you're thinking of a corporation, they have shareholders.
Yes.
And they give money back to their shareholders based on how well they do. Well, a nonprofit has shareholders, but they don't get money, they are the donors. And we are
Many hats.
accountable to them, just like a corporation is to its shareholders.
Right, right. I think that's a great insight because you guys are on the other side of the glass, like I say, and you've seen it from back there. And that those of us who are maybe just donors, just everyday philanthropists, we don't realize. I mean, we know it's a good cause. We believe in what they're trying to accomplish. We're sold on that idea, and we realize that we have impact. But I think that it is really insightful for us to realize that they have a bona fide organization that's supporting the work and perpetuating, that it's not just a guy kind of necessarily working out of his kitchen or something like that.
That's right.
That it really does have a structure is what I'm saying.
And understanding that your gifts can be both gifts of your treasure or monetary dollars, as well as gifts of your time. And maybe part of your plan to be a philanthropic person is both giving your time and your money, and calling that organization, how can I help? A couple hours a month, and helping that to kind of see behind the scenes and learn where your dollars are going.
That's a very interesting point of view too, and I know we have an army of wonderful volunteers where I am.
You couldn't do what you do without them.
You can't. No, you can't do it without them
right,
at a hospice. But that is an interesting thing because it's not like they're closed to outside help. They're actually very open.
Yeah, very grateful. Help. And that can look so many different ways. It can be hands-on, packing bags for hungry people, or it can be behind the scenes stuffing envelopes and helping get ready for a fundraising drive.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, but they're also grateful, and without those dollars, they can't be as efficient. Without those donations, they can't be as efficient as they need to be.
Right.
So that's part of the treasure that you can donate as well.
That's right. Yeah, just about all of the nonprofit professionals that you will talk to are donors, either to their own organization probably, but to others, and they volunteer their time to others because they really believe in what they're doing.
And it's contagious.
It is.
Yeah, giving inspires giving.
It does. Well, and I think that it's a characteristic of our nature as I don't know, as Americans, as citizens who care about one another in one way or another, and I feel like we really do try to reach out with our resources, whether our resource is time or whether it is financial, and do something. And I agree with you. I've seen the same thing, that many times donors who are volunteers or volunteers with our organization are not just volunteers of our organization, they also volunteer for other organizations. It's part of their nature, it's part of their character, right?
One of my favorite things to see is people who have benefited from an organization at a part of their life to then come back and be the donors and be, whether it be time or money, and really show that what an impact that had. I think that credibility is just great.
For sure. Then their testimonials come from that. All of their stories come from that.
And they can relate to the people being served in such a better and more effective way.
And their peers who are doing the same thing. I mean, they're in the same club essentially because they've been the beneficiaries of whatever it is that's just gone on.
Right, which just really shows the spectrum of donors is so extreme and still so important.
Yeah.
And it all counts. No matter how small, how big, it all counts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that, again, I'm constantly sort of struck by the infrastructure of it and the impact of it. That just to say, not-for-profits are large, or there are many, they're numerous, or whatever all else it is, but they are really a crucial component of our social fabric.
Right, of the structure that upholds our society. It's an important part.
It really is, and it's kind of organic in a way. I mean, it's like people who have skills and are able to accomplish them, and then they're supported by others who are able to help in other ways. That's kind of cool. That was an interesting little conversation.
It was a good conversation.
I know it wasn't one we were driving really hard toward about the tax law, but we're going to talk about that in just a moment.
We are.
Let's go ahead and sort of plow into that, at least in some measure, some kind. There have been some changes to tax law. We all know about that because it was fanfared for some long while, and it's still being.
Back to the hoopla.
Back to the hoopla. So from the perspective of donors concerning charitable gifts, how would you describe the change? How would you describe what the tax laws have done?
What happened is, not even a year ago, the tax laws were modified by Congress to change the deduction and all of that. Most people don't itemize anyway, and those who do itemize they have to have a certain amount of deductions. Right now, the deduction is moved up,
Right.
automatic deduction.
Right.
So many of the smaller donors, their gift won't be counted as a tax-deductible gift, but they're covered already anyway. So nonprofits are not exactly sure how this is going to shake out for them. They hope it doesn't hurt their giving, but the decision to give is a decision to care through giving.
Right.
And I don't think that's going to change
Right.
the numbers all that much.
I find that an interesting concept, because really that goes back and actually camps out and anchors on what we were talking about for the first two-thirds
Yeah, it was a great lead-in.
of this time, is what really motivates us. It's the good that's done. It's not
true.
so much
Right.
that big, the
Right.
hoopla thing.
Yeah, well, the media will say your in-tax planning is coming, and
Yes.
all these changes. Don't be bewildered by that.
Right.
Agreed.
Find somebody like any of us or other good professionals,
Right.
and say, I have a question,
Yeah.
and we can help you figure out what your situation means.
Right.
Yeah, and to reaffirm what we talked about, at the beginning, even though it might have been a little sidetracked, our clients, the nonprofits that we help serve, heard this excitement about no more charitable deduction and all of our gifts are going to go away. And it was initial panic, maybe a little media driven, who knows, but initial panic. And it's been such a great experience for them in hindsight that they're learning that their donors care about their cause, and it's a part of who they are, just like we said earlier. And those gifts continue to come, and that deduction, changes things anyway. So they're really seeing consistency, and that's really affirming to all of you as donors to know that you're giving because you believe in the work that's being done, not because you're necessarily tax motivated.
Right.
And that's that's a better partnership anyway. Those are the people that you want on your team.
It's a partnership of heart. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, and mission. You've got to believe
Yeah.
in the mission. That's why that nonprofit exists, is to, start with any giving, start with the mission statement and see why they exist and see why they're there, to really get why they're doing what they're doing.
There is a study by an expert on why do people give, and came up with, I think, 60 or so reasons
Oh my
why
goodness.
people give. And tax consequences
Yes.
was number 24 on the list.
Wow.
So
All right.
it's
So it
not
wasn't in the top 10.
It's not a huge motivator
Yeah.
for most
Yeah.
people, one way or the other.
Yeah.
The number 1 and 2 reasons were what we've always known, is that people believe in what the organization is doing,
Right.
and they believe in the people who are leading it.
Right. Right.
And that hasn't changed.
Right. Right. Federal tax law didn't change that.
No, and it can't.
It can't, because that's human nature. It's what people are.
Yeah.
I think that's really pretty cool. So we've touched on both of those things. So for people who are everyday philanthropists like us, that tax law essentially basically said, in my thinking, it basically said, we know you're generous. We'll give you credit for being generous on the
Right.
top.
Right.
You go ahead and
Right,
be
automatically generous.
You're
Right.
automatically generous. We're gonna give you that benefit of
100%,
understanding
yep.
right away. Keep being generous. Go ahead. That's what we're saying. Is don't let that change you. So from our vantage point, it doesn't really change our motivation, as you said.
No.
It doesn't necessarily change the good that the organizations are doing, and the pitfall, the potential pitfall that organizations maybe had uttered, that therefore then people who are motivated by tax law, by tax exemptions, would then therefore withdraw their support.
Right, that was the concern.
That was the concern, but so far that doesn't seem to be the evidence. And those are people who are usually larger scale donors anyway that we're talking about.
There's a term called plain giving or gift planning.
Okay.
And that's where tax planning does get into it more.
Yes.
The legacy gifts, where you're giving through an estate or through a trust
Yes.
or some little more complicated
Yes.
way of giving, might involve some of that.
Yes.
And that's where you need to reach out to somebody who can help you.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people who would do that.
Yeah, I think that is an advisable comment. The fact that that if people are considering, which we always encourage people, I mean, part of Leave a Legacy Southeast Michigan is
That's your
do
motivation.
plan a gift.
Right.
Plan for a gift after your lifetime, not just during your lifetime.
Right.
Do something wonderful in perpetuity somehow. So from our vantage point, to encourage the community to do just that,
Right.
we would also sort of attach to that encouragement to see if you can't find somebody who can help advise
Sure.
how to best do that, because there are better and not as good ways to go about it. But you definitely want the better one because you want to have the most impact.
Right.
Right?
You want to be impactful. And I think what we're really learning is that everybody can benefit from that. It's just not the super rich
Yes.
who can do it.
Yeah.
Everybody will have some sort of an estate or, money.
Yeah.
And to make an impact with that is just such a nice lasting tribute.
That legacy is not just about giving money. It's about continuing what you care about.
Yes.
Your values
Right.
will continue.
Right.
And a gift is a way to make that statement. It doesn't mean you have to write your children out of your will.
Right.
Some people want to do that, but
That's another show.
that's a different show. I was talking
Completely
with
different
someone recently
conversation.
who said, I intend to spend every penny and so that the last penny is the day I die, but if I die a little bit early, our church gets the rest.
Okay, all right. There you go. So, I mean, I think that that's advisable because we just say people who are charitable already, it makes sense that they would be charitable through their lifetime and beyond their lifetime. I mean, their character doesn't change just when they go because of the fact that their legacy continues on.
And
So,
a lot of people don't know they can do that.
yeah, a lot of people
Right.
aren't.
It's for everyone.
And it's actually one of the easiest things to do,
Yeah.
in a will,
Yep.
to name a charity
Yep.
for whatever you want to
Right.
give them.
Yeah, or a beneficiary of insurance or something like that
Yes.
is also an option.
Yeah.
There are a lot of very simple, just one-line kind of information.
And
Right.
it doesn't take away from what you have now.
It doesn't take away. Right, yeah, you're still supporting your family right now, and you will continue to do that. Yeah, I think that's a great perspective. So, to me, the moral of the story is kind of carry on. But be aware of what's going on on the other side of the glass.
And don't be afraid to reach out. It's
Don't
a
be afraid
partnership.
to reach out. It is a partnership, and by good and reputable organizations, it's an embraced partnership.
100%.
They love that
It is.
partnership.
It is.
Yes.
Donors are inspiring to nonprofits too. When they're generous, I can tell you times that there have been tears at a gift, not
yeah.
because they're giving a lot of money or whatever, but because they understand the impact of that gift.
Exactly.
And
And the
that's,
important work it will do.
Yeah.
yes, and that's very touching.
That's great.
To see that.
That's great. This is a good segue point. I think that we're nearly done. This has gone fast. We've had just this great conversation, very lively.
It's been wonderful.
One of the resource options is the Leave a Legacy website. If people want to look into planned giving and all that kind of stuff, they're not trying to sell you anything. They're just trying to inform you. And you can find that by going to leavealegacysoutheastmichigan.org. leavealegacysoutheastmichigan.org. And there's also a phone number to call to contact that organization as well, and it's this one. It's 888-826-7900. So that's kind of us in a nutshell, and a great conversation. I really appreciate your input, and I appreciate your time and your attention. So till next time, I'm Bob Alexander, and I'll see you around town.